Hello guys. So before I get into the video, can you guys do me a big favor and subscribe and turn on your notifications so you guys can be made get notified obviously when new content. Thank you, I really appreciate that. So let me get into why I think enlightenment, my personal gripes with enlightenment. So if you look up enlightenment on Google and you go for like the Buddhist or more spiritual like definition, it will talk about obtaining or achieving spiritual knowledge or information, and it mentions something about freeing. It mentions something about freeing that'll free awareness that'll free yourself from the life and death, incarnation, rebirth cycle, right? So even with that definition, which is kind of like one of the more concrete ones I've seen, it's still inherent kind of vague about what that would mean exactly. And I've watched other videos from different gurus and stuff like that, and like on the highest end of the spectrum, you get definitions of there are like, it's beyond human, beyond words, so they can't even actually define it at all. So this brings me to the first problem, which is that enlightenment is what you're achieving is inherently vague, which is difficult then to actually achieve. So if you're going on it, you don't even have any real parameters of what that would look like to actually even achieve that. And so when we going back to what I was saying earlier about how they were saying that's beyond words, and beyond words, that would mean that enlightenment is something that you can only experience. And if it's something you can experience, all experience are also inherently subjective. So enlightenment is going to look fundamentally different in 2 or 3 people, meaning that there's no, like, which brings me back home to my main point, is there's no clear objective parameter for what that would look like. Which brings me into my next problem with enlightenment as a concept, which is how do we acknowledge people are enlightened on a mass scale? Well, what happens normally is we use proxies, like them achieving great feats and stuff like that. So, an example of Jesus, we have all those famous feats he did where he walked on water, turned blood into wine, and all these great feats to suggest that, well, he must be enlightened because he's able to do these great feats. But that's not an accurate measurement of enlightenment, because maybe you don't need to be enlightened to do those things. It's not like that's a logical fallacy to say just because someone has power, capability to do something, that they're all of a sudden enlightened. That's just those two things don't necessarily have to be together. I can see the logic of it being more likely that they are enlightened because they are able to do those things, but to say that that's objectively correct that's a logical fallacy. It's just not how that works. So, all these people that we've deemed in the past are enlightened beings like Buddha or whatever, I think there's no way that they could have since it like enlightened, as I prefer in the first one, it's inherently subjective and all that other stuff, and even great feats aren't a reliable source to achieve that. There's no way even any of the great figures in the past it's fair to say that we can confidently say that they were enlightened. It's just not. This is not how it works. So that's my second problem with it, is that there's no way to put any confirmed individual. We said the individual that's been widely confirmed to be an enlightened individual is kind of nonsense, because there's no way to actually do that, since it's inherently a subjective goal. So this brings me into my third thing, which is why I wanted to bring up a more practical example of how this might operate. Because let's say for a second, even if you do achieve personal enlightenment, this is another point, I forgot to mention this, even if you do achieve enlightenment personally on your own journey, whatever, and like that's super helpful to you specifically, that doesn't really do much for other people, because of what you experience enlightenment, you can't really help anyone else. It doesn't really help anyone else. And I mean, if it's helpful to you, it's helpful to you, but that's where it begins and ends. So then I'm gonna bring up a more practical example of like something I'm talking about. So there's a yogi, I'm pretty sure you might have heard of Saghuru. He's a popular yogi on YouTube or whatever, and I don't have any problems with the guy. He's a really cool guy or whatever. But he mentions he made a video about like Reiki and how you shouldn't do it. I'm certified like love the Reiki practitioner, and he made a video how you shouldn't do Reiki because you take on someone else's karma if you do that, which is not true. Which is not true. And anybody who like knows who's a Reiki practitioner and like actually knows what they're doing at all knows that's not like the case. You have easy ways to protect yourself from other people's energy and stuff like that. Grounding, very practical ones that you can easily. It's just not true. Like you don't have to take on anyone's karma by doing Reiki. By the way, for those of you who don't know what Reiki is, it's like it's an energy healing practice. So you know, if you're probably here, you might be somewhat spiritual, but basically, the general idea is that there's like life force, like this thing called life force energy, and it's in all things, and then you could use it to heal people. Very simple. I'm not gonna make it complicated, but yeah. So with that, that brings me to my final point about that. Even when someone, you know, who saghuru, you know, I think most people would consider him enlightened who watch him and follow him. So even when someone like in our current time, you know, we consider an enlightened individual or whatever, it's still not like he's like all knowing or, you know, even like guaranteed to be correct on like almost everything, you know. So yeah, that's my my gripes with enlightenment. Why I think it's kind of nonsensical to necessarily even go on the journey, because trying to go there inherently doesn't really have any there's no real necessary destination. You just kind of might as well just go through life and do other things, and like, you know, and you could literally go through life doing other things and it could kind of just happen to you anyway. So like, I don't see a point in you deliberately going on your way. You're going on a journey of enlightenment. It just seems kind of nonsensical. If you guys have, you know, different opinions or different takes, I'd like to hear them in the comments below. If you made it to the end of the video, I appreciate you, and can't wait to see you guys in the next one. Peace.